أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن فبأي آلاء ربكما ربكما تكذبان سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العظيم. I know probably most of you guys aren't really that happy to see me here, because I remember when I was memorizing the Quran and you're reading all day and someone comes to visit and talk to us, you just get happy because you don't have to read, you get to do something else. You just get to sit down and relax and kind of not do what you have to do normally at this time of day, right? That's what most of you guys are actually looking forward to at this time. But some words of advice that I'll give you guys. The Quran is the Quran. So first of all, I don't want you guys to think about when I was memorizing it or when I was doing it, it was any different than how you guys are doing it right now. For the most part, it's the same thing, right? We all go through the same processes. We all have to memorize. We all make our mistakes. We all help each other out when we're reciting to friends, right? Qaisab or your teacher tells you to recite to your friend something that you're supposed to recite, and instead of actually listening to your friend like you're supposed to, what do? You already know. You sit there and you talk to each other, and then at the end, you guys come to an agreement, mutual agreement. I had this many mistakes and you had this many mistakes. This sounds believable, this doesn't, right? Yesterday, last time I recited it, I had this many mistakes, so Qaisab knows if I say that it's perfect, this time something is fishy, something's weird. So you gotta sometimes make up, even though it'll sound bad, it won't be perfect, but you kind of add like a few extra mistakes, acting like it's hard on you and, I didn't do that well today, but in reality, while you're reciting, you weren't reading to each other, right? And then that day that comes where you actually have to recite that same juz to your teacher instead of your friend, and you make triple, quadruple the amount of mistakes you did with your friend, right? Your teacher knows what's up. He knows what happened. And then that's a painful day for you. And so, I've been there. I know how it is. It's all the same. But some words of advice that I can give you guys from when I was memorizing is, first thing is, you never know where your life is going to take you. Right? When I was memorizing the Quran, when I was 9 years old, there's even some of you guys younger than I was when I started memorizing, right? I promise you I did not think in the back of my mind that, one day I'm going to be in South Africa talking to a bunch of Hifz students because I memorized the Quran. Like, I didn't even remotely think, that wasn't even anywhere in my mind. At that time, all I'm thinking about is like finishing and leaving and going home because like I don't want to do it. It's just my mom, she made me do it, and if I don't do it, there's no other alternative. I have to do it, I mean, that's how it is, right? All of us, from the most part, it's really hard to say that, we all want to come here every morning and struggle and wake up early and if your parents didn't make you do it, right? You might not be here today. But when I was 9 years old and when my parents made me do it, I didn't even remotely imagine where the Quran would take me in the next couple of years of my life. Because that is the power of the Quran. When you hold the Quran in your hearts, whenever you guys are memorizing, that book that you're reading every single day, it has a power, it has an effect, right? It's a huge treasure, and you guys are guarding it in your hearts, right? So automatically, because you guys are people of the Quran, people are going to respect you and admire you, right? Because that's something really great that you're doing. Do you guys, I was told there's 160 people in here. Do you know how many Muslims are in South Africa or in Cape Town? From what I was told, there's about 2 million in South Africa. I don't know how many there are in Cape Town, right? But you guys are a handful of people chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be right here memorizing the Quran and reading it. And you guys are protecting His book. And you won't understand how amazing that is until you kind of grow up a little older. And I know your parents are making you do certain things and you want to go home sometimes and you don't want to keep reading, right? But it's not until you grow up a little and you memorize the Quran and you actually start studying it where you start appreciating it. I promise you it's going to come. You're going to appreciate it. You're going to see what your parents have done for you. And your teachers. Why am I mentioning teachers? Do you know how many times, and I know you guys are probably the same boat, right? You don't do well that day, your teacher gets mad at you, whatever happens, happens, right? I remember there was times where when your teacher sends you back to review it again or revise it and, make it pakka or make it good, right? What are you doing? You're just thinking about ways of how your teacher, something horrible can happen to him so he doesn't come to class the next day, and you're just making all sorts of du'as and I wish I was in here right now, and I hope he trips outside and he's in the hospital for a month and he doesn't come so I can do whatever I'd like, right? And then when we go to the bathroom, right, you ask your teacher to go to the bathroom for 10 minutes, right? You take 20 minutes, you guys, the one thing I'll tell you guys, Hifz schools, the students of Hifz schools make the most beautiful wudu. The most beautiful wudu. Why? Because you guys don't want to go back to class, right? So you go and you sit there and you take your sweet time, you make sure everything is done properly, every driplet of water has touched whatever it's supposed to, mashallah. 25, 30 minutes later, you're still doing wudu, Your teacher's like, what are you doing? You're just like, oh, I'm making wudu. Because, what is he going to say? You have to have wudu to read Quran. So you take your time, right? Everyone's talking in the bathroom. They don't really have to go, but you're talking in the bathroom. But when your teacher walks in the bathroom, what's the first thing that happens? Everyone's chilling in the bathroom talking, right? Your teacher walks in, everyone's finishing their wudu. No more 30-minute wudu. Everyone is done. Everyone's out. No, everyone becomes serious all of a sudden. right? And they go back to what they're doing, right? And that's how it is for the most part. Because, when you're reading the Quran all day, right, it would be kind of a lie to say that you don't get bored. You get bored, right? Your mind starts wandering about whatever it is that you wonder about. You hear birds outside, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, your mind is like, I wonder what birds do in their day. I wonder what he did today, that bird. He sounds like he's enjoying himself, and I'm right here bored, right? All these things happen to you. But at the end of the day, you're still doing something really amazing and remarkable, right? And you're not going to really be able to truly appreciate what your teachers have done for you and what your parents have done for you until you leave and you kind of grow up and you see in the outside world how the Quran can affect you and change you and help you as an individual. I promise it will. Right? But you have to trust in that. And there's going to be days where you're going to think that, you know what, I can't do this anymore. This is too hard. But it's not really. If you've memorized any of the Quran, if you've memorized more than a juz or two, you know that as long as you put in some effort and you're not lazy and you actually take out time and you're not daydreaming like 75% of the time while you're supposed to be memorizing your sabak, you're going to memorize it. It's not that hard, right? When your sparas or when your juz is not that good, it's not because you're not able to do it. It's because you're too lazy to do it, right? You don't have that motivation. Like if you sat there and reviewed that juz over and over and recited it and took it seriously, then you would know it. And for the older people here, right? Because there's younger people here, they might not listen because they're younger. But for the older people, if you're old enough and you know what you're doing, right? You guys are friends. I know how it is with the older kids in the class. Older kids, it's usually this older kids, younger kids whole thing, I know. The older kids in the class, my advice to you guys, my main advice, is you guys are role models for these young guys right here. All these little kids in front of you that sit around you, they look up to you, whether you know it or not, because you're older. So whatever it is you're doing, they're going to do it too. If you guys are helping each other out and not listening to your teacher and giving him a hard time, they're going to do it too. Because who else do they have to look up to in here? Right? There's a teacher, but when you're memorizing the Quran, for some reason your teacher is your enemy, or that's what you think, right? He's out to get you. He doesn't like you. He's always just trying to get you in trouble or make your life miserable in some way. That's what you believe, right? So the teacher is always on the side. So who are you looking up to? The little kids are looking up to you. So if you guys are helping each other out when you're supposed to be reciting, you're not taking things seriously, you're not listening to your teacher, you're not doing well, and you're saying that, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? What do you think the little kids are going to say? So it's a big responsibility on you guys to make sure these little young guys have someone to look up to. And for yourselves as well, even if that wasn't, in the question, when you guys are reciting to each other, I promise you, there's just from here, I'm giving you some advice and some tips from my life and experience from what I've been doing and what will help you. First of it is do never, and I keep repeating this, don't help each other out when you guys are listening to each other. Why do I keep stressing it? Because it happens. You guys are going to do it. I see people smiling, they already probably did it today or going to do it later, or have it in their mind. Right? It's how it is. But the reason why you shouldn't do that is because every time you guys help each other out, what are you doing to your Quran? You're sitting here, putting in this effort, daydreaming all the time, doing whatever you can to memorize something, right? And then you guys help each other out, and then you're just making it worse. You're just making it kacha. I don't know if you guys understand what that word means, right? You're just making it not that strong, like it's weak and weaker, and it gets weaker and weaker. Because every time you help each other out, then you become more lenient and more easy. Like, oh, tomorrow I don't really have to, really focus because I know I'm going to be reciting to that friend of mine, and whenever me and him recite, we usually have a good chat, and all that's missing is some tea, right? And that's a tea session right there. It's not even, you guys aren't even reciting to each other. But the thing is, you guys have to listen to each other. And when you guys do, I promise you, just try it for like a month. Like for all those of you who have a habit of helping each other, just try for 1 month with whatever juz you know. Don't help each other out. It's going to be hard, right? Your kaisa might get mad at you. You might get in trouble for not, knowing you that well, making mistakes. But every time you make a mistake and you get in trouble for it, are you going to make that mistake again? No. Right? When someone actually corrects your mistakes and you know where your mistakes are and you're being held for those mistakes, accountable for them, you're not going to make them anymore. And then after a month or two, you're not even going to have to help each other out. Why? Because you're going to know your Quran. You're going to know that juz. You're not going to need anyone to help you. Right? You can do it on your own, right? Someone doesn't have to help you when you're getting along. So that's the first thing. And the second main bit of advice I can give you guys is, I know when you're in madrasas, there's often a habit of reciting the Quran very quickly, right? When you're reviewing, right? Right? 10 minutes later, you finish 2 juz, right? But let me tell you why that's not going to help you. If you get into a habit of reading that fast, how many of you guys, raise your hand if you've led Tarawih? If you've ever led a Tarawih Salah. Few people, right? When you do that, when you review fast and you get in the habit of reading really fast, what happens when you read your Tarawih? Allahu Akbar, right? Same thing happens. You get that habit of reading quickly. Because what happens if you read really slow? What happens? You get stuck, you get nervous, you get frustrated because it's not easy. It doesn't flow, right? So I'm not telling you to, sit there and review every time your qaisab, has you review how many juz you're supposed to review, right? You sit there and go, that you're never going to get anything done, right? You're going to sit there for 2 hours and read a few pages. But I'm telling you to read at a pace, find a space, find a speed where you can read it where it's comfortable. Alif Lam Mim ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Like that, just something simple that flows, So then when you do have to go lead a prayer and you do have to do something, you don't get stuck, and it can sound beautiful, and you can, show the beauty of the Quran. Because when you're reading, people can't understand you, you can't understand you, and you're just doing it to finish. So those are the 2 main advices I wanted to give you guys. And the third one, respect your teacher. Respect your teacher. I know that sounds kind of like cliche or weird, and everyone says that, respect your teacher, listen to your teacher, but you should listen to your teacher. Because if he's teaching you Quran, for the most part, he knows what he's doing. Right? And I can promise you this, if my teacher ever got mad at me or upset at me, or if I got in trouble, and you guys can agree to this too, for the most part, it's because of something you did. Right? It's not because he just wants to mess with you or be mean with you. Right? It's because of something you did. Right? Am I right or wrong? Does your teacher get mad at you when you don't do anything? For no reason? No. When you guys are talking, when you're playing, not paying attention, you're not reading like you're supposed to, that's when your teacher gets upset. If he didn't get upset at you when you guys do all these things, you would always do it every single day, and there would be no discipline, and you guys would just, it'd be whatever, chaotic, and you would come here, learn nothing, and leave with nothing. So it's a blessing that your teacher cares. Because if your teacher didn't care about you and he didn't care well for you, he wouldn't say anything. He would let you do whatever you wanted. Right? Do you want that? Do you want a teacher that just says, you know what, you do whatever you want, I don't really care, just at the end of the day, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. Right? Where are you going to go with that? So appreciate your teachers and respect them, because they know what they're doing. And I can tell you from personal experience, now my teacher, my personal teacher that I memorized Quran with, I moved away from him. I live very far from him. Very far from him. And there was times where he was the person I hated the most in my life at that time. There was times where you just hate your teacher so much and you're so upset with them, frustrated with what's happening, right? But today, I promise you, today, I respect my teacher and I love him so much. When I do see my teacher and I go back to where I memorize the Quran, anything he asks, it's done. It's there. Why? Because anything I am today is because of the Quran and because of my teacher and my parents. All these things that are done for you that you don't appreciate right now, I promise you'll appreciate them one day. Inshallah. So take your Quran seriously. The few years that you're taking, because when you get older, you don't have time, I promise. The younger guys here, it's a blessing. Because there's a lot of people that are older than you that want to do the same thing, but they can't. They don't have time in their lives anymore. So appreciate your teachers, inshallah, and take what you're doing seriously. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة أيحسب الإنسان أن لن نجمع عظامه بلى قادرين على أن نسوي بنانه بل يريد الإنسان ليفجر أمامه يسأل أيان يوم القيامة فإذا برق البصر وخسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر يقول الإنسان يومئذ أين المفر كلا لا وزر إلى ربك يومئذ المستقر ينبأ الإنسان يومئذ بما قدم وأخر بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرة ولو ألقى معاذيره لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه فإذا قرأناه فاتبع قرآنه ثم إن علينا بيانه كلا بل تحبون العاجلة وتذرون الآخرة وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة ووجوه يومئذ باسرة تظن أن يفعل بها فاقرة كلا إذا بلغت التراقي وقيل من راق وظن أنه الفراق والتفت الساق بالساق إلى ربك يومئذ المساق فلا صدق ولا صلى ولكن كذب وتولى ثم ذهب إلى أهله يتمطى أولى لك فأولى ثم أولى لك فأولى أيحسب الإنسان أن يترك سدى ألم يكن نطفة من مني يمنى ثم كان علقة فخلق فسوى فجعل منه الزوجين الذكر والأنثى أليس ذلك بقادر على أن يحيي الموتى صدق الله العظيم. Sorry about that. So inshallah, I'm going to be giving a small advice. I just spoke to the boys, and that's I guess I'm a boy, so I know how to talk to boys, and I know what we did in school, and I'm not a girl, so I don't know what girls do or how they think or whatnot, as usual, just like any other man. So, I don't really I'm just going to give you the same advice I gave to the guys, just a bit of the advice, the three main things. The first advice that I gave them was to, when they read, not to help each other out. Now, I'm pretty sure, I'm not, because I'm always told that girls are a little more, mashallah or something, and they're not as bad as boys and stuff. But if there are girls in here that are memorizing the Quran, and, it's common in a madrasa when you're memorizing, where when your teacher asks you to recite to someone a portion that you're supposed to recite, you guys help each other out if you're friends, right? you guys have this kind of predetermined agreement in the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to say this many mistakes for you today, and you say this many for me. And inshallah, everything will sound right, and our teacher will probably believe us. And if you're one of those students where you make mistakes often and more frequently and stuff, then you have to tell your teacher like a few more mistakes, something that sounds bad. Like you have to make it believable, right? So you'll be like, it's not good, but you kind of make it sound bad just so it's like, okay, they'll believe me. But in reality, I'm not really doing anything. I'm just talking about like whatever you girls talk about. And so the main advice that I wanted to give you guys that I really, really like, and the fact that I'm telling you guys this, I want you guys to think about this for the older crowd. Out of my entire experience of 5 years when I was memorizing the Quran, this is like the first thing and like the most important thing after respecting your teachers, but I'll get there. The most important thing that I want you guys to understand and walk away with. Take your Quran seriously. Don't help each other out, because it's going to hurt you in the long run. Whatever you're doing right now, you have this time, you've taken out this time of your life to memorize the Quran and study the Quran, and once you leave from here, you're not going to have that opportunity anymore. You're not going to have that time. So if you're sitting there helping each other out, right, and if you guys are a little older and you understand, I promise you, if you guys are helping each other, it might make your life easier for that day or for that week, right? But in the long run, it's really going to hurt you. And what I told the boys was, if you guys take your Quran seriously and just take the consequences of not knowing what you're supposed to know, right, and don't help each other out for just a month or so, right, you're not even going to have to help each other out afterwards, because why? You're going to know your Quran to a point where no one needs to help you. You can help yourself, and you'll have it ready, and you'll be able to recite it perfectly, right? But you'll never reach that stage of perfection where you know your Quran unless you take it seriously. So take your Quran seriously. And the second advice I gave for the boys is not really going to apply for you guys, because you guys don't really, well, maybe. You guys need Tarawih amongst girls. So I'll mention it quickly what I told them, but this is more applicable to them. When you guys are reviewing, right, and for those of you, the girls that want to, I don't, girls might do their own thing, but if there's girls in here that, want to beautify their voices and recite really beautifully and lead prayers amongst women and so on and so forth, right, it's really important that when you're reviewing the Quran, that you review the Quran as efficiently as possible in a slow kind of fashion. Not too slow, but in a rhythm where, when you stand up, because if you guys know, boys usually from hifz schools, right, it's very common that hifz school boys, when they're leading Tarawih, what do? Right? How fast is their Tarawih? Really fast, right? And so the reason for them doing that is because when they're reviewing and when they're reading in their schools and stuff, how do they read? Right? So when they get up there to recite in Salah, right, they're doing the same thing. It's like, how fast are you really trying to read the Quran here, right? So try to get a pace or something where you can, like I told the boys, Alif Lam Mim Dhalikal Kitabu La Rayba Fihi Hudan Lil Muttaqin. Just something that's not too fast, not too slow, but something that kind of still gives you a rhythm and you can understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, right? So when you do end up reciting the Quran, when you do end up reading it to other people, right? When you recite the Quran, you want them to appreciate it and appreciate the beauty of the Quran, right? You don't want people to listen to you and hear you recite 100 miles, or what do you guys use, kilometers per hour, whatever, here that you guys use, really fast speeds, right? If you're reading at those really fast speeds, then the people that are listening to the Quran are not going to really appreciate the beauty of it and why it's beautiful. So try to read it a little slower, and it's going to help you out as well when you're revising. The most important thing is respect your teachers, right? Respect your teachers and appreciate them. For the most part, when you're younger, right, when you're at this age, when you're memorizing the Quran, as I told the boys, there's many times where my teacher was probably the person I hated the most at the day, because your teachers will get mad at you, they'll get upset with you, and you feel like they're just picking on you, and they hate you, and they're against you, and everything they're doing is to make your life miserable, and you're just so miserable, and you can't wait to leave. But in reality, everything and anything your teachers are doing for you is for your own benefit and for your own good, right? Your teacher is not going to get mad at least I hope not, right? For the most part, most teachers, good teachers, they don't get mad at you, they don't get upset at you for doing the right thing. They get mad at you when you're not listening, when you're doing the wrong thing, right? When you're doing something, inappropriate, or when you're not listening, when you're talking, or when you don't know what you're supposed to know. Your teachers are going to get mad at you, they're going to get upset at you. It's only natural, right? And you need to have that discipline. You need someone to tell you what to do and what not to do. Because if you don't, then what's going to happen? right? You're just going to do whatever you want. Your Quran is going to be however you want it to be. And then when you leave from here, everything's going to be like whatever, you know? So you need that discipline. You need someone to kind of tell you what to do, what's right, what's wrong. When you listen to them and you have someone guide you, it's going to help you out. And you're going to appreciate your teachers a lot more once you finish and leave, when they're not there for you anymore, when they're not guiding you anymore, than you do right now. But don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you've left and you've grown up and you have a family and kids and like, oh, you know, I remember my teacher, he used to yell at me when I didn't listen, you know, when I was young, and, you know, I should have listened to him because it would have helped me out. It's really going to help you out, I promise. Like, that's, like, I don't know how it is for girls, but there was definitely times, I promise you, when I was memorizing the Quran, where my teacher was the person I hated the most. Like, I was just like, I really don't like my teacher right now. You would just sit there and, because you have time on your hand, you just imagine like all these horrible things that could happen to him so he doesn't have to come to class next day, right? And so like, that's just, no, it's just part of how it is. You know, you get upset at someone and you have free time on your hands, so you're just sitting there and you're just like, you know, all these, you know, you replay all these really horrific things in your minds, you know, what can happen to your teacher. But at the end of the day, your teacher means well for you. And when I was memorizing the Quran, I'm telling you guys this, you don't know what the Quran is going to do for you. It's a really big blessing. When I was memorizing the Quran at 9 years old, right, I didn't imagine I'd be sitting here in South Africa talking to a bunch of girls that are memorizing the Quran because of something I've done, right? You guys are young. You guys are memorizing the Quran. You have your lives ahead of you. So take that seriously. Take your teacher seriously, and let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide you guys, and the Quran will protect you and help you guys as well, and will be a blessing for you guys. So I'm going to end with that, inshallah. And so, main thing, respect your teachers. It sounds cliche, but honestly, respect